Okay, so next up we're gonna do a body of a teapot, and I'm gonna kind of go for kind of classic, more ball-like shape. And I think this will be enough clay. I'm not one to really measure clay too much. I would say when you're doing this, guesstimate and then measure it on the scale. And then if it ends up not being enough clay or too much clay, you know that you have your starting point and you can add or subtract clay if you need to. So I'm just going to get this clay nice and attached to the wheel head. Well, that's not centered at all. Let's see. Let's try to help myself out a little bit here. It's a little bit better. So I'm going to center this. It's a little bit larger amount of clay, so my wheel is going a little bit faster than with regular sizes. I'll start with centering the way I normally would, and if I have trouble with it, I'll switch to the way I center for large amounts of clay. So we'll see how it goes. I think I'll be able to do it this way. I'm coning up. And I'm going to take away some of that extra clay down at the bottom so it doesn't make my hands move around like they shouldn't. And I'm going to comb back down. Alright, so I've got it centered, and it's going to be sort of like a bowl, but I need to make it tall enough and round enough so I can enclose it more into a ball shape. So it starts off pretty similar to everything else, right? We're just going to push down and start opening. Need to leave enough clay at the bottom for my foot and for supporting the curve of the piece. So I'm going to leave some extra clay at the bottom, but I'm going to try to do this like a tall cylinder, a thick cylinder at first, with a little bit of extra clay down there for the curve, because I can kind of push it out. Once I've have it pulled up. Because remember, when I curve something in, it's going to make any height drop. So I need to get enough height out of this thing before I start to really curve on the top. So we're going to do that volcano stage here. Thin that out a bit. Get rid of the extra water and make sure this floor is nice and compressed. Compression is key. I'm not sure I've said that in every video, but I know I've said the word compression in every video. Just gently applying pressure with my finger across that bottom, stopping when I get to the center. I don't want to go across the center line. Remember, you're working on this quadrant over here, because you're letting the wheel work for you instead of working against it. Alright, So I'm going to slow my wheel down a touch and start to do some pulls. And I'm going to need to leave the lip of my piece thicker, or at least keep in mind that I need extra clay there because I need to make the gallery that my lid is going to sit into, and I need extra clay up there for that. So we're going to keep on throwing. And letting that top stay a bit thicker. I'm going to turn the speed down on this. And my top opened up a bit, so I'm going to close it back into cylinder, which will also help with thickness there. So remember, necking in is a matter of using both your hands symmetrically and applying pressure. And as long as you ease off, it's going to come back to round. Alright, so I'm going to use a rib on the inside of this and start to round out that belly a little bit. I want to be really careful whenever you use ribs on the insides of things because they can easily catch and get stuck. So I want to support my arms as much as I can. Got my elbow on my leg, supporting it from the outside, and I'm applying pressure to round out that form from the inside. You can see it starting to bulge there. I'm going to clean up my rib, consider my floor very controlled way, make sure my arms lock down to my side so I can do this with one hand. And I'm going to start to close the top in a little bit more before I belly it out any further. And what I tend to do when I'm bringing in the top of something is to avoid that sort of drawstring bunching that can happen, is I'll bring it in some and then I'm going to do a pull to sort of thin out what has just thickened. And pull towards the center rather than towards the outside, and it'll keep it going in. And I'm going to do it again. I'm always considering that lip, making sure I keep it a bit thicker, so I'm keeping in mind the gallery I have to put in there. I'm gonna, with the rib inside a little bit more, kind of do a little bit more shaping, very carefully. Turn down my speed some, and I'm gonna keep shaping this. I know I have extra clay down at the bottom, So I need to keep that in mind as I look at the shape. I can kind of see I've definitely got a nice ball shape happening on the inside. So I really just need to bring in this top. And again, I'm going to do a little pull here to thin out what I just scrunched down. And I've got a nice thick lip still. We might be getting close to our measurement for the lid that I made. So I did it a little backwards. Usually you'd make your body first and measure off that. Made it a little bit harder for myself. I made a lid first, and now I have to match the body to the lid. So let's shape this out a bit. Definitely supporting this from the inside when I'm doing this. My fingers are wrapped underneath that edge, making sure I don't collapse it in. That's very important when we're doing this. My hands are still a unit. I'm still touching that rib with both hands. Alright, so I'm going to turn off my wheel and I'm going to measure where I'm at with this opening. So my flange width is 2 inches and my gallery width for my lid is 2 inches and 2 7/8, which means I need to make it a little bit bigger than that so it fits in. So this opening is 2 3/8. It looks like. Yep, 2 3/8. So that can be much smaller. So let's keep that going in. And if you're accumulating water in the inside or you get too small, make sure you get that water out of there. Think about the shape a little bit. And let's see what my diameter is there again. So we're getting much closer here. We're at about 2 1/4, which is pretty good leeway, because I'm going to fold this in just a little bit more. And I think we're going to be pretty darn close. And I'm going to trim this lip to make sure it's nice and appropriately round. go. Nice round hole. That way I have a good thing to, oh, I just put a little piece of clay on there, that's okay. We'll get it off. And let's measure. Where are we at? We are at just over 2 inches, which is perfect for what we're doing. And that's for the hole the flange goes into. So now I need to make the seat for the gallery. So I'm going to take my calipers and I'm going to set them to the measurement that I measured off of my lid. If they loosen up, just tighten this wing nut on the back here. And I've got 2 7/8 as the exterior diameter. So I'm going to set these to that. Okay. 2 7/8. Got my caliper set to that. And now I'm going to kind of mark it. Just give it a little touch. It's not going to be perfect, but I need somewhere to start. And I'm going to take a rib that has a 90-degree angle, and I'm going to gently start to push in. I'm going to support it from underneath. This could be a little bit awkward. I'm going to make sure my leg is supporting that. And I'm going to start to push down. And this is why I needed some extra clay on the lip, because I need enough clay to be able to push down and make a separation. Let's see where we're at. Might be a little wide. Oh, no, we're pretty good. I think I need to make it a little bit wider to give myself a little bit of leeway. So I'm going to push out a little bit, just a hair. And then I'm going to work on getting this little lip of clay off of there. Not quite as cleanly as I would have liked. And this is definitely a back and forth sort of thing. Trying to clean this up. There's no sharp edges, but not lose my distinction here. Alright, so I'm going to, that looks pretty good. I've got like a 1/16 of an inch on either side of that. I'm going to make sure that this part is nice and flat. Since I've just pushed down on it, it's probably not anymore. And then I want to recheck this part to see if that has changed. Oops. Which it has quite a lot. So we're gonna set these calipers at 2 inches, which is the interior. Okay. And so we're gonna mark that just a little bit and trim it. Check the again. I'm going to take a little bit more off. Oops. Sometimes that happens. All right, I think we're in good shape on that. So we're just going to clean that up a little bit. Get underneath that edge with our finger and take away any extra clay that's there. And if you've got any water pooling in there, do your best to get that out. I'm going to take away some of this extra clay that's at the bottom that I know I don't need. Oops. I want to try to avoid what I just did there. I've got a lump of clay stuck to that, so as soon as that happens, I want to peel it off so I don't hurt the piece. You can always run your pin tool underneath this area of clay first so it's cut away. Alright, so I've got a body to my teapot that I will be able to let firm up. It's based off of the measurements from the lid, that is the firm at the same time, and I'll be able to match those up and see how they do. I'll need to trim the bottom of this and then assemble the teapot.